Welcome to Skin and Soul. I'm Gwenm Carsley, a transformational body, sex, and soul coach, and I'm inviting you on a bold, unfiltered journey into the heart of our humanity through the lens of Eros. This is where we strip away the shame, dive into the unspoken, and embrace the wild, raw truth of our desires. Together, we'll crack open the taboo, uncover our deepest intimacies, and awaken the pulse of our sexual essence. Because real transformation, it's messy, it's thrilling, and it's oh so delicious. Buckle up, loves. Skin and Soul Beyond the Pale starts in 3, 2, 1. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Gwenm. I'm your host on Skin and Soul. I'm on Transformation Talk Radio. I'm also a body, sex, and soul coach and the creator of Loopology. And I'm just going to start today because I'm super excited. I have one of my, what I'm going to say it badly, my guest mentor crush on, because I love her. And start with, like, there are people who speak presence and there are those people who are it. And Lori Triolo lives in the marrow of embodiment. Her artistry isn't just performance, it's the way she meets the world with raw, authentic expression. I can tell you from firsthand, she is fierce, balls to the wall, and meets it equally with fierce, beautiful tenderness and vulnerability. She's a director, actor, producer, and renowned teacher who's spent over 3 decades opening people to their most authentic selves through voice, movement, and presence. She's also the creator of Meisner, a powerful technique blending her life's work, which we will talk about. And she works with actors and everyday people and CEOs. So this conversation is about the craft of acting and awareness and bringing it into everyday life, the cost and the blessing of staying in a wakefulness, about weaving awareness in not just into practice rooms and stages, but into the bed, the kitchen, the arms of a lover, and into the mess of being profoundly human. So here we go. I'm so happy to have you here. Like, ah.
Oh my God. I'm like, who is she talking about? I was very moved by that. So.
Oh.
I
love
really
having
was.
you here, because, okay, so I'm just going to start this off by saying, so I've had the privilege of being in class with you. So, and you scared the shit out of me every time in the best way possible, right? Because
I love the
you bring
after. Yeah,
right,
I love when people tell me that later. I would never know that. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, because you bring us like right in front of ourselves. You talk about bringing us to our mirror. And one of the things that I thought, I'm just going to admit it, was like, oh, I hear your voice in my head. Oh, Gwenm, you can be so mean, or Gwenm, you can be so bossy, like doing Meisner work, right? And just everything that comes out from that kind of work. And on our conversation, we were talking about how people have no idea what actors do. And it's all about pretend and lies, and we're great performers, but And I know you agree that this work needs to come to the everyday person because it's so profound. So I'm going to leave it there.
Oh,
for a minute,
okay.
Right? Just to jump. Feel free to jump in any time because I am bossy and I do talk a lot. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Do you want me to speak to any of that? I mean, like I said, first of all, I find it wildly interesting. Well, I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration. Like, to hear your fear of my demand of people, maybe that's what it is always jarring to me. But I also understand how not just deep or profound the work is, but how terrifying it is to meet yourself, to reintroduce yourself to yourself when you think that you've been living your truthful self for God knows how many years. Could be 5 years, could be 40 years. And when you're really confronted with just some really simple, and I think that's what we do, right? Or we've done together, is they're all very simple exercises. Nothing is, out there kind of crazy. It really is just coming back to a place of willingness, right? So making space in your body so that you can move more freely through your authenticity rather than getting stuck and bumping up against maybe whatever trauma responses you have.
Yeah. And I think, and the word there is willingness, right? Because I think if it just even sitting here in this seat today and having spent also about 3 decades working in unmasking, it's like a lifetime of getting rid of the shit in order to show up. and it's still happening. So I think of myself like in horror, kind of, years ago. I'm like, oh, yeah, I think I kind of remember these scenes where you're just like, and people would say, oh no, I still see a mask, and feeling like there's no mask. It's all here, but like, and not seeing it. So wondering like what happens in you viscerally, like as you're working with people, how you feel their mask.
Well, I mean, a lot of the training that I have, some of it was masked and some of it was very forthright in the sense that it was energy work, right? That sometimes we didn't talk about it as being energy, right? Because that would scare some people away from it if they were just trying to be very academic about what they were learning about trauma or breath or voice or whatever it was. But I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was going to say.
Yeah, that's okay. I lose it all the time.
No, but what was the question? What was the?
I think I lost my question.
Oh, so how do I feel? How do I show up?
How do you feel? Yeah, how do you show up, and how do you feel it viscerally in your system? Like, because I recognize it now.
Yeah. So part of my training, and I think what I offer my clients and my students for themselves to navigate the world, is what does it mean to be inauthentic? What is it? How does our nervous system show up? So because a lot of the work that I've done is around neuroscience and nervous system, that you can just see somebody start to rev up, or you could hear it in their voice, because the Fitz part of the Fitz-Meisner, right? The Fitzmaurice part of the Fitz-Meisner is about your voice, and that your voice is the thing that tells us the truth. And so when we get better at recognizing, ooh, are they squeezing while they're talking? Do they seem to have space? Do they look grounded? Is gravity taking them? Right? It's all very physical cues and vocal sound and vocal cues. So it's not, some mastermind and some psychic ability and all those things, but it really is energy and tone. So I think the more you do it, the easier that becomes.
Yeah. And that visceral sense, we talk about, like, oftentimes if you're watching a theater presentation is one of the ways I think about it, is you can see somebody bawl their eyes out and be absolutely not affected whatsoever, even though they're emoting or the right things are being said, but there's something in our gut that knows when something isn't real and there. And I'm like,
well, and isn't that what you do, right? And like we are talking about predisposition, right? So when you feel like someone isn't being real or not being authentic, we don't even maybe clock it cognizantly, but we feel it in our body, right? Or sometimes we listen to somebody speak, or I'll listen to somebody give a seminar and I'm like, I don't trust that person at all. They sound like they know what they're talking about, but not that I think that they're insidious or horrible person, just that I don't trust sitting in front of that person that I'm going to learn, because they're so disconnected from how they're showing up. Right. So again, sitting in the theater, watching somebody give I would rather see somebody put like glycerin drops in their eyes and have fake tears, but have real feeling. Do you know what I mean? Which is what you were speaking to. Someone can cry and cry and cry, but you feel nothing for them because it's not costing them anything. It's not connected to anything for real, like you said. And so when you mentioned the actors before and what we do and dispelling the myths and the pretend, and it's not that we don't pretend, but it is that, as you and I talked about, that it is like the highest form of truth telling. That I think the great actors of our time, the ones that I admire, the ones that I still love to learn from, are the ones that will always say, like, it's me. Like, those are my secrets. I am telling the ultimate truth. And I remember doing a play and a bunch of students that I had coming to see me in the play, and they couldn't look me in the eye after the show. Like, we're all good in class and everything's fine, but they were like very squirrely. I'm like, what is wrong? What's happening to all of you? And they're like, I don't think I know you at all.
Oh,
I know. I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, I don't know who that was. And I'm like, oh my God, it was me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was, I'm like, you know me better now than you ever have after seeing that performance. So I just think that most of us, it's nobody's business what we're doing and what we're thinking of. So we don't talk about it in those terms to the public, So they get this conception that it doesn't cost us anything, that, we're just a bunch of liars, and why can't you lie in life? Why can't you just, my mother would say, like, Lorianne, why can't you just tell that person? I'm like, I can't lie in my life. That is not what I do in my work. That's not what I do in my work. You think I'm a liar in my work? I'm not. I'm actually not. I'm like telling the most raw, honest truth.
Yeah, and when you're coming into like, especially those really difficult, and it doesn't mean that whatever's written on the page obviously isn't your life, right? Like coming in and being a Nazi or a murderer or whatever, rapist, and playing really difficult roles or just very open, vulnerable roles. But you've got to be such a clear channel in order to tap into those places with absolute truth and conviction, because we all have it. And that to me is like the bravest thing that you can do, because it's admitting it's there. It's all there all the time. And so that vulnerability, and we're going to come into like how this, to me, what I love about this work, and just bringing it into the I'm saying the layman, right? I love that you work with CEOs, by the way. I'm like, oh, how does that show up with CEOs? Like, they're in the suits and the, and just like everybody trying to keep it together and have a certain front and have a certain polish, and how that shows up in a boardroom and what happens. And I think it's the most powerful thing, actually, what you can see when you see, or I don't know about you, but like when I see people in power, real power, and they step in to that real truth and that rawness, it is so powerful, and especially mixed with awareness and consciousness. It's not aiming, it's what the world needs. So
it's having the courage to be transparent, right? So many people just don't have the courage to do that, or they don't know what it means, or they know that in the past they got annihilated for doing it, and then they hide. I mean, again, I just was working somewhere where that was the way. It's this corporate idea that we have to keep things from each other, that we can't just be honest. And it is like, again, using that word profound, it really is the deepest work, because those people, in my opinion, tend to be the most resistant, right? To what the heck is this crazy thing that we're doing? But also in my experience, and I do believe this is across the board, that every single time what comes out of it is mostly men, because unfortunately that is still the world, but there's always like a few women sprinkled in there. They are changed. They're fully changed, and they are blown away. And what I love is that because they're so good at what they do, because they're so smart, they recognize that at the end of it, it was exactly what they needed. That there is no like pushing it away, that it was, oh my God, I can't wait to go home and share this with my family. You go like, yeah.
Right. And then how do I explain it? I can imagine like all partners are like, oh, what just happened? Like this whole sense of sensitivity and awareness and coming into this deep connection, which is the scary stuff. Like when you talk about like sitting in deep, like just simplicity of, in connection, just being with someone. And I don't know, I know my experience has always been like, oh my God, I'm fully seen. I mean, you could be saying the word blue 10 times over and just exchanging the word blue over and over. But when you fall into opening and softening and being really true, you can say nothing. And it's like standing there naked. And it is the scariest. And for me, I don't know, I call myself a connection junkie. So I get like I'm terrified, and I'm so excited by the work. So I'm like, when's my next class? And don't put me up there. I don't want to go, right? It's like, I'm putting my hand down. I'm going to hide. I'll be last.
That's right. I mean, you and I definitely share that, in the sense that I always say I'm addicted to the present. Like I'm addicted to being in the moment. Like Meisner would always say, which is obviously the Meisner part of the Fitzmaurice, would always say being in the moment is addictive. And it's like we're the most alive in that moment. And just how you described it, that terror and that excitement, which I don't know if you remember, I used to call thrill. Where fear and excitement meet is thrill. So like there's nothing negative about that, right? It's all just like, what can we do with this? What can we do with this connection now? how it is why we're here. We are pack animals. That is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to live with each other. We're supposed to get along to some degree. We're supposed to be curious and interested and need this heart feeling, this communication, which I think is what we do, right? What we had done when you were in class is like so much of that repetition and Meisner work combined with the Fitzmaurice is about communicating heart to heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is acknowledging that we have this instinct and gut, which obviously is our belly, but that our heart gives us so much information. And so many of us have been doing this with our heart for so long, maybe without even realizing we're doing it. So I do think part of what you're describing and what most of my clients and students experience is this like slow, like loosening the grip, right?
Yeah.
But that's what I say. I'm like, let's do it in baby steps. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go slowly and unravel that because there's a lot of techniques and a lot of things where we just go balls to the wall right away, right?
Yeah.
Where it is just like, and what I've discovered is the slowing down is the thing that causes people to actually integrate it and learn it and it becomes cellular.
Yeah, and you do the tech and the Fitzmaurice aspect of it, which brings the voice into, I'm going to say, alignment and center and resonance, right? Having that place, but it in itself, it releases trauma, right? It like everyday, whether it's everyday trauma or deeper trauma, it's on a cellular level, which then gets ready for the Meisner part of it, which is coming into connection with someone.
Okay.
And what I find so interesting as you're talking, like, we'd start off in blocks. Like you said, it's a slow unraveling, right? So I remember you just saying, okay, just notice, like, it's just about what are you seeing? Just repeat what you see. And
Right.
as people are great at it, truly great at it, it's the nuances that come up. And I always describe it, it's like the opposite of therapy because you are actually projecting the crap out of like the other person. You're throwing this stuff out there. Like you're doing this, right?
Yeah,
And then feeling into how it lands on the other person, but just it forces you to attune both to yourself to get really honest with what's going on within you, as well as the other person that you're working with. And so that's why I think the technique is so amazing. And I know I'm being elusive here, but
but I think what you're speaking to is that yes, the projection is there. Like it's almost the best kind of therapy in the
mm-hmm.
sense where, right, you say the thing and you say it so many times that all of a sudden it becomes untrue. Or maybe or we come to an understanding with each other without having to argue and like use every little thing against the other person, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there is something really beautiful about it. And I'm also very careful about saying I'm not a therapist that the work that I offer is very healing, whether it's Meisner or Fitzmaurice or any of the other things that I've learned, that it's all very, very healing and it's up to you and it empowers you. But that I'm not a healer, that I can hold space for you because I'm
Mm-hmm.
a empathetic human being who who feels energy. But
Yeah. Well, and that
yeah,
knows her craft super well. So, and we've dived right into the craft. And in a minute, I might change it into the direction of like how this applies in everyday life. Because
yeah,
shit, because as actors, everybody's a connection junkie. And so everyone's always falling in love and hating the other person all the time. And that's something I find. It's like you usually leave your practices pretty much in love with everybody because you've fallen in love with yourself without recognizing maybe you do, maybe you don't, but like that open channel where the heart really opens and allows for that exchange. And you were speaking to we're supposed to get along. And I think we are supposed to get along. I don't think we're supposed to change anybody. I think, um, we get to be all things just in ourselves and just in the awareness, like allow everybody to be what they are and to come to loving acceptance to where we are, and I'll come back to my bossiness, my meanness, like that really, and it was so profound for me because I was like, oh shit, even today I notice things come up, but I notice it come up more not in a judgmental way, but more it's the awareness of like, oh, this is part of me. Can I love and accept this part of me? And can I show show these parts to the world as well that aren't so pretty and polished in a world that is so used to airbrushing and saying the right thing or doing the right thing and acting in a certain way, and get to make really big mistakes. And there's that.
I think that's maybe one of the most important parts, is that making mistakes, is being allowed to make a mistake and change, right? It's the giving people a second chance. It's like, but again, going back to willingness, right? Like having the willingness to want to change, to want to look at yourself. What you just described to me, sounds very Buddhist, in the sense that, like, I'm going to observe how I'm feeling right now. In the best way, right? It's like, I'm going to observe what is coming up for me right now, and I'm going to try not to react like a crazy person. But it isn't about squashing it, right? Or holding it down. And when you mentioned the trauma therapy part of Fitzmaurice, it isn't. And I think when we acknowledge those things that we're doing, but we do it from a place of, again, space, where we use our breath to have space in our body so it can move and transform into something else. Right? And I think that's the point, is that we don't stay stagnant, is that we're allowed to feel those things. But the unfortunate part of it is that so many people stay in their suffering in that sense, right? Because they don't allow it to move, or they've defined themselves by this feeling. I know this feeling, it's familiar to me. I'm the person that feels like this when this happens, and leaves no room for change or growth, right? Or learning. And I think that, as soon as we've talked about this too, as soon as we stop learning, we might as well die. Like, we have to keep learning. We constantly are changing. I'm not fixed, right? Like, I do all this work all the time because I'm constantly changing. I'm aging, things happen. I live in different places. I'm constantly dealing with different kinds of people. And, I confront myself all the time in that sense, right? That, or I thought I worked through this, and now it's coming up here, and what have I not given room for?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think that transformation means we have one transformation. We are transcendent.
Right.
It's all done. We're good. We're going to walk away in bliss, and everything's yummy, and I'm going to come home every day to my spouse, and it's going to be perfect because now I get it. And the truth is that we keep expanding, right? So, and by squashing that feeling, which I for the longest time thought, I'm going to take control of whether it's anxiety or nerves or whatever. And, like, as you know, that's probably one of the worst things you can do with those feelings, whatever it is try to squash them or just ignore them, because they just grow and fester. And then the behavior comes out of that, rather than, I'm just going to sit. And to me, it is with sitting, with being with the feeling, with these sensations, and allowing them, like you said, to move and breathe, because they'll naturally, if you are with it and not trying to avoid it, it will move. You were saying how you were going, like, you've been everywhere. So you take, you change over time. And I'm just curious, like, out in the real world, where there are no, where people have not been doing this work forever, how you feel. I mean, because I know I really miss authentic connection a lot, like out in the world, and how you maneuver, like, romantic relationships, friendships, like all of that stuff. Or are you so embedded in your world that you don't have that?
That nearly made me laugh. I don't have that. No, I have all of that. No. It's hard. It's hard. I think that when you choose to truly try and live an authentic life and surround yourself with those people, that life can become a little lonelier. And it's how we process that loneliness. Is it super negative, right? Are we attaching this horrible thing? And, I remember just during the pandemic and all of the somatic work that I was doing and the people that I was listening to and the podcasts, and they're like, loneliness is the number one killer. Loneliness is the thing that kills. And so when you start to feel that loneliness, like, my world does sometimes feel like it's closing in on me, because I'm like, what is wrong with everybody? Like, where are the people that actually want to have a real conversation? What? And not like everything has to be so serious all the time, but I think that's what people think. Oh, we're going to be deep. It's like, I just kind of enjoy talking about, being human. So in the world, I think over the course of many years, my circle has gotten smaller, right? That my circle of people has gotten a lot
Mhm.
smaller. Um, I do try and again, going from place to place, like we were just talking about, like I definitely feel that there's people who are much more authentic than others. People I've known for many, many years. And it's not that they're not authentic, it's that they don't consider life the same way that I do, right? They don't consider connection the same way that I do. So they like have a ball and have fun and go out with their friends but there's still something that's missing. I was dating somebody last year, and I haven't been in a relationship for a while. Divorce and moving and traveling but except during the pandemic when I was in a relationship. But so I was recently dating somebody, and the thing that they said to me over and over again was that what they loved the most was how truthful I
Mm.
was that they felt like they'd never met anybody that they could have a real conversation with. And this is a person, lovely, lovely, kind human that grew up in my neighborhood, when I was a
Mm.
kid and and didn't leave and didn't have any of this in their life and never considered that these things were important. But I'm over teaching somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'm
I was gonna
over
ask you, like, do you teach your lovers? And when I
no,
say
I'm
teach, I mean
over
like that whole authenticity thing, because I think, oh my God, doing all of this work, and I often wonder, I'm like, oh, how do you, how do people in this place like date? And I
no,
don't date. Like I don't do the online dating. Not that I think
no,
like
me
if
neither.
anybody out there is online dating, for me it's just a
Yeah,
nightmare because I'm like it's a full
me
time
too.
job one, and then you have to weed out of like I don't know crazy. Not to
Yeah,
say again that you're crazy if you online date, but it's just for me it's never been like that place
yeah,
of deep connection or
yeah.
I still
And
want somebody to hit me with a car or something.
I think that's true
you
though, and
know?
I think the world that we come from, when we're coming from the performing arts, when we're coming from that world of artists, that is how we met people. That is how we
Mhm.
like, it was, and I get that that's harder now, but I'm with you that I still stand by that I
Mhm.
have to meet somebody in person. That I
Yeah.
like you, I think online dating is amazing. I have many friends who've been married, met their perfect person, but there's something about just me that is hard to do that. So I think with my husband, with my ex-husband, I think there was a lot of teaching. Like there was a lot of me feeling like, but it was under the disguise of I love you and
Mhm.
and you're my husband and this is what I understand about the world and I'm just sharing it, right? I was teaching every day. I was working with clients every day, so there's no way for me to separate fully from what I do for a living into relationship. It's very difficult for me to do that. And so maybe that's something for me to work on, right? Something else to learn. But I also find my joy there. So I learned that I really had to hear um, the couples therapist say to me, Lori, he doesn't want you to teach him. Really hear it and go, okay, I just thought that's what a relationship was, that you kind of shared these things and that's what happened. But I think it was to an extreme, probably, and trying to save somebody. So
Yeah.
this last person was just appreciative, was like, wow, I never considered that before. And now I think of that all the time, or whatever little aspects of communication or being present with somebody, or even just softening into something,
Mm.
right? Like that person was going through a divorce, and it was like, oh, everything was this, and so I wouldn't say anything. It's not my business. You know what I mean? It's not my business
Yeah.
to talk about his family or any of those things, but I would just listen to him and maybe offer up like, what if you just took a bigger breath right now?
Hmm.
Maybe offer something like that. Like, "Oh, do you feel any better? Yes. Oh, I'm gonna do that." So then it's not like a full-on lesson. You know what I mean? It's just an offer, like, honey, you can feel better by using these tools. And I think that, as time went on, it did get better. the only reason we aren't together is like there's still a lot for them to work through,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and it's not mean, and there's no hate, and you know, which is also
Well, and it's not
nice.
about like, and I think there's like a big distinction between, because I think we always are learning something definitely in relationship, right? Like everybody's coming from different perspective. And for me, the most important thing is are you relating, right? I don't need like the other person to know or to have the same perspective or experience. In fact, I kind of like it when somebody is not coming from my exact background, because I always think, that's a whole lot of crazy.
Yeah,
And just a lot of, or it can be a lot of intense energy. It doesn't have to be, but
yeah.
that there's something around just being open to relating, and that in itself to me is like the greatest growth pattern, right? Just like, how do I sit with somebody who might not have all of this work, but is like, I've met people who have done none of this work and yet have this capacity to sit in presence and just
Yes.
be open. So like speaking to business people, CEOs, all like just in high consciousness that come and sit and like absolutely have no idea about like all of this fluff. I'm going to say fluffy acting work.
Yeah,
Some people think, but just have no concept of the arts necessarily, but
yeah.
can sit with absolute presence and openness, which is sexy as hell for one. And that I think
Hmm.
is the awareness unto itself, and then and then gently sliding over, the pamphlet that's like, want to go and do the art of awareness, or want to go and do a tantra,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
Slide it in there.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting. What makes me think of is the person that I, was with before that, not my husband, but the one that was very open, the one that had done all the work, the one that did take all the workshops, was more scared of the truth than the person who had never done the work. That where this one person would say like, oh my God, I so appreciate your truthfulness and I appreciate your authenticity, where that person who studied all of those things was like, you use your truth as a weapon.
Not subtle at all. I feel like, maybe.
So I'm like, do I? Is that what's happening? Or is it that I get that when I mirror something, it scares the hell out of you because you recognize how much work there still is to do? And I'm not trying to catch somebody in doing that. It's just that that's what it is, and that was their response to being challenged in some way um to maybe just not be mean. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
It's easier to not be mean when you can take a breath and feel your feet on the ground and let your belly soften. Like it's easier,
Agreed. It's taken me a long, because I didn't realize in my own life like that I did at some point, in my own relationship. I realized like I had the power of mean, and that was my weapon of defense. And it was a great weapon because it was the only way I knew how to protect myself. And as soon as I started to really delve in and go into breath, I'm going to say go into breath and really feel into and hear my own words back. I don't
Hmm.
think I can. I'm not saying I'm never mean, and it's probably not true. Driving, God knows what. But I would. I'm not. I'm not mean anymore, and I can say that with like truth, because it's about to exit my mouth, and if it does exit my mouth, I recognize it so fast, and it doesn't feel good coming out of my mouth. It just doesn't feel good in my heart. It doesn't. I can't. It doesn't feel good in my life anymore. So
Yeah.
doing all of this work. And I remember like for so many years, and I don't want to scare anybody by saying, oh, like it's been decades, like you can start any time. And that's the truth of it, is like, there's something in growing older that I'm loving, that coming into this, like, I don't give a shit what anybody really thinks about the trajectory and moving and what I need in my life. But, that there's a beauty in that. Like there's a stripping away. It's either I meet people that are so excited, like you're talking about thrill, that fear and excitement, that want to do it. They get a sense of it. They start to feel their body. They start to feel a sensation,
Mm.
whatever it is. And they're like,
Hmm.
I'm hooked. Let's do some inner child work. Let me do some parts work. Let me feel into these sensations more. And you have people who really start to want to delve into that, or you have to me another group of people who hit that kind of midlife place that are like, no, I'm good to stay in this like nice superficial place. I'm gonna and I'm like, it's all good, right? To me it's always like, make your choices, right? We're all conscious beings of choice, so make your choice as long as it's a choice and it's not running your roost, which I'm always like, oh, so how is that working for you?
Well, exactly. You know, I think of a couple of people when you say those words, that don't want to change or feel like they're too old or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is. And like you said, they're making choices. My issue with that is when somebody that's close to me is doing that, right? And that could
Mm-hmm.
be a parent, a sibling, a family member, you know, somebody. When somebody close to me behaves that way, I think, why should I have to put up with you not willing to change? Does that make sense?
Mm.
Because they're not their unwillingness to change is causing harm to me. Because
Mm.
what you said that was so beautiful is that you worked through this meanness. You know,
Mm.
you're working through it, and it's like you can honestly say with confidence that you're not that person anymore and that it feels
Mm.
better to do something else, right? And
Yeah.
not follow through on that. Whereas I know quite a few people, unfortunately, that what feels good to them is the dig. And I think that was probably true for you and true for me. I'm a Sicilian New Yorker. Like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? I grew up going like annihilating people and not like horrible and
Yeah.
always feeling right, always feeling
Yeah.
justified,
Totally.
always feeling justified in it.
Well,
You
anger's a
did this to
high.
me, then you deserve this lashing.
Mm-hmm.
Where at the end of the day, who does that lashing hurt? It actually hurts, right? The person that's
Mm-hmm.
lashing. Yes, it hurts the person. Like I said, I'm on the receiving end when people do it to me. But when I am lashing out at somebody, it hurts me. It gives me dis-ease,
Mm-hmm.
right? It causes stuff in me. So that's what I would say to one person in particular that's very close to me. I'm like, they don't understand that it's hurting them. Yes, it hurts me because
Yeah.
I'm on the receiving end of it, but it's hurting them. And I can't, and it's hard to watch someone, obviously, that you care about so deeply suffer with
Mm-hmm.
something that they could make some leeway on. Do you know what I mean? That they could
They could, and
soften.
that's the
They
willingness,
could.
right? And so,
That's it.
and I'll go back to like you teach this art of awareness, and there's so many people who walk around who aren't aware, and they're so unaware that they're
That's
unaware,
right. Right.
and that's the I think what you're speaking to. It's like, well, you can make the choice, and I can also think of family members in
Yeah.
particular, where the more though I clear my channel, and I do find this, like, it's not like I can't ever be triggered. Absolutely.
Right.
Right
Of
person,
course.
right time. It's
That's
like
it.
guns blazing. I've definitely had, I totally like have felt the bullets come at me. And I've, just to say it out loud, my mother's in Portugal, she has dementia. It's really tough. So, and she can be the epitome of me. Like, now that she's like in a place where
Sure.
like things are unfiltered, and I mean, I've had things fly out of my mouth that I'm like, oh, my only
Yeah.
thing is it's like, oh, good, she won't remember it in 5 minutes. So terrible thing to say, right? But I feel it. I'm
Yes.
laughing,
No.
but I'm horrified, right? Like, I'm
We're
like,
human.
we're
Human
human.
too. Yes.
And but it is this awareness. And so, as you bring this in, and I heard you say, like, I don't want to teach anybody anymore, right? Like, especially as you're bringing somebody intimate or bringing close
Yeah, my
friends in.
partner, I certainly, yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. No, well, because it pushes them away. And if they want it, it's
Mm-hmm.
great, right? I've certainly had, romantic partners say, like, I'd love to do a session with you, or I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to know what it is that you actually do. Do you know? And I'm like, well, that's great because I love sharing it. Like, it's just
Mm-hmm.
so fun to share and like you say, watch somebody just like find that thing that changes them or excites them to do more. So that's certainly been something, and I've done it with family members. I did it with, at the time, I think she was like 85. My 85-year-old aunt was like, I want to get on the ball. I want to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. She held on to every piece of furniture while she was like rolling on the floor. And But I love the curiosity, right? And isn't that at the end of the day everything? I mean, it is a bit of an overused word these days, but at the same time, it's everything. Without
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, we have nothing. And so that's, I think, the willingness. I almost might replace the word willingness with curiosity. Can you just be curious? What if you were curious? What if you were curious?
Yeah, all the
What
yeah.
would
What if
happen?
you're like, what? Just ask the questions and
Yeah.
bringing this and all of this work. To me, it's like this is the work though that you end up bringing out into the world. Like this is how I mean, I call myself a body, sex, and soul coach, but really it's around eros, right? So it's
Right.
sexuality, but it's the life force. It is the thrill. It is where fear meets excitement. It's where everything is brighter, and it's a spectrum of everything, so that you're feeling into the things that
Mm,
feel awful, the discomfort, the crap, the
mhm,
shit, the goo, whatever. And
mhm.
then there's the opposite, which is like that bliss, that high, that like, oh my God, I'm so alive in the best way possible. And I'm falling in love with traveling, or like I'm connected to this tree and
Yeah.
this piece of food that I'm eating, or people around me. So
Hmm.
transmitting it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I love about what you're doing is, like you say, it is like a more holistic way of coming to our joy, of coming to our pleasure, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
looking at every aspect rather than just picking a little piece of it, which I do think is the mistake we make constantly, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
is is compartmentalizing too much and not incorporating. So even when you're asking me these questions about, like, well, here's your work, and then how does it, translate into your life, and where does it seep in all these other places? And it's true. I always say Fitzmaurice, just the Fitzmaurice voice work, I say it saved my life. Like,
Mm.
especially during the pandemic, right? You and I, you would come to my free right, online from wherever you are in the world, come and
Yeah,
let's make some noise
let's do
together.
this.
Let's shake and make some noise. But it really saved me, and I knew it was just as
Mm-hmm.
much for me as it was for anybody else I was offering it to. And so anytime when I went through my divorce, when I, moving, all the traumatic things that happen, I get down on the ground and I do the work. And the work,
Yeah.
we're being elusive, as we said before, but this idea of tremoring is part of the Fitzmaurice work. And so making that space and moving those things through my body, I might weep. You know what I mean? I might like be doing the practice and like crying, but at the end of that, there's a lightness, right? There
Mm-hmm.
is not the panic and the worry and the whatever. There's a peace that happens. And I think, yes, it was horrible the next day, but then I could do the practice and there'd be peace. And then, oh my God, it's terrible but then you could practice and do the peace. And that was the part of being human, I think, that you were speaking to before, is like,
Mm-hmm.
it's it, we're going to get angry. We have to get angry,
Got to get
right? We
angry.
have to
Yeah.
get, we don't know joy without anger. We have to have all of it, right? We don't know
Mm-hmm.
sadness without joy. We don't know. So they're all relevant and necessary. And again, I just
Mm-hmm.
go back to, are we staying there? How
Yeah. Are we
long are we
stuck
swimming
in it?
around? That's it. So to have this place, and I my hunch is that what you do, right, is help people move through, right? Like you said, transform it into something else, something that's
Mm-hmm.
useful to you, and
And
not
feeling it first, right? And like just feeling, just stopping to feel in a moment. People think, "Oh yeah, I feel." I'm like, do you though?
this is
Do
where
you
they
notice? I
feel,
mean,
right?
right? This
It's
is where
here. They're like, I feel everything. You're like, no.
I feel like this is what I think. I think this. As soon as I hear like I think this, and I like my thoughts, and it just stays up in this realm. I'm like, okay, can
Mhm.
you name any sensation in the body? Right? Because that happens, and you doing. Anyway, we talked about this, and this is not something you do, which is Lecoq work, right? Working. I had worked with somebody just working in neutral mask, and you
Yeah.
can so see where people are in their bodies, where they're cut off, where they're, and if you're paying attention, and that's part of the visceral listening when you're watching and something's off. But if you start to really observe people, and you can notice, are they in their breath? Are they in their center? Where are they leaning, right? Like, where's their tension being held? And you can, and that's
Yes.
part of the energetics that comes with the nuance of like going deeper into awareness with yourself. then brings you into deeper awareness with others, and that connection coming into full presence and all that yumminess. And I'm like, this time has gone by so fast. So you're gonna, and I'm like, I'm actually like, I was like, I'm like, did I write? Because I haven't, I wanted to. I've been working on my own questions from Bernard Pivot's and James Lipton's 10 questions, like, but adapted it to sex and eros and whatever. So I'm like, is this? Yeah, these are my questions. So because we don't have that much time left, I want to take you through it, and I want to say, like, to me, bringing in all of this work for me, because spending a lifetime also in the world of the craft of acting, to me is so central to bring it out into the world. Yes, I know I have 10 minutes left. Thank you. So I'm going to just go through because they might take a bit. So first question, what's one truth your body has always known that your mind took years to catch up to?
That's a big question.
I know, right? That's
From
right.
a somatic worker, like, that's a big question.
Right?
I'm gonna make it simple for myself. It's a bit all encompassing, but I think just that it's a general answer that I didn't know until I knew. I didn't know that my emotional life could cause my body ailments. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I know I walked around with this thing in my back for a long time, and it felt like someone was stabbing me, and it was releasing it emotionally through the work that I was like, oh, I had no idea. So, although that was many, many years ago, almost 30 years ago, I discovered that, but that's huge. That's still a discovery that I go like, oh, this is coming up for me right now. Even the meningitis-y feeling that I have in my body. Like, oh, there's a lot of stress happening. So I don't think I ever would have connected those things together.
Thank you. What's the most intimate moment you've had that had nothing to do with sex? They're loaded questions.
Yeah,
What's
but, like,
your favorite
again,
color?
I'm like running through a lifetime, right? These are not at the top of my head. I think, I mean, I'm going to go back to my profession. I think that it probably, what I'm feeling in my body, and that's really how I navigate everything, is like, it's not necessarily a thought, it's a feeling. And when I feel this feeling, I think about, being in a play with this person who I feel like you're connected to that person for the rest of your life. Do you know what I mean? When you have this experience, I can think of a few, very few, but one in particular I'm thinking of that you share something so deep, so exposed, so vulnerable, and it has nothing to do with sex.
Yeah.
Right?
But it may as well have.
Yes, because it's exposing every part. It's what you said before. It's like standing up naked and like turning around and just like, oh, and letting somebody see you to that degree.
Which is orgasmic in my feeling. Like, to me, like, when, again, we're going to come back to thrill, fear, and excitement, which to me, that type of depth of connection is orgasmic, and it's scary as hell, especially, when it's somebody you don't know, or the person you're not married to, or the
That's right.
Just like, I'm in it, right? So, yeah.
It's why I say leading people fall in love with each other, leading male lead. And I'm like, it's not real. Don't fall in love. Don't leave your husband. Don't do it. Yeah.
Yeah, wait a while. At least, what is the rule? The 3-year rule or whatever it is. Like, no contact 3 years, not if you're still there. Okay, so if you could be remembered for one sensation you gave someone, what would it be?
Safety. Which to me, safety would be space. Was that somebody feels like they have space in their chest and their belly and their spine. Those 3 places.
I feel that now.
Oh,
thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Yeah.
And if pleasure were a language, what would your first word be? Wait, lost sound.
No, I know that's me.
No.
If pleasure was a word, say that again. If pleasure was a
So if
language.
pleasure was a language, what would your first word be? Ooh,
It
I
would
like
be
that.
vibration.
Ooh, I love it.
It
Even
would be
even just
like,
like the sign language of it is amazing.
yeah, I like
Um,
to speak in
yeah.
sounds and movements. Yeah.
And if your erotic life had a title, like a novel or a film, what would it be called?
Oh my God. Unfortunately, now you're really exposing me. Do you feel my voice change? Do you see what happens to
Yeah.
my face? Yeah. This is what we're talking about. And so now I feel myself doing this. Oh,
Yeah.
now I'm really
Oh.
admitting something personal. Everything else was easy. Um, Unfortunately, it would be like some uh at this time, it would be like non-existent. It would be like
Hmm.
the phantom life of the erotic human.
Okay, which is interesting because I'm like, your life is everything erotic to me. It's all about connection,
Well,
right?
there you go. So
And that's
look at where my brain went. But
right.
that's
It's
amazing because
beautiful.
that's where my brain went. Because all I'm doing is
Right?
like, I think I need to work with you, Gwenm. I think we need to work.
I was like,
But
actually, I thought your
it's
first title was the title when you went, "Oh my God," and I was like, "Yes."
That's good. That's good. It was like listening to you describe me at the beginning of this, right? It was listening to you do my intro. It's that sometimes I lose sight of myself.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Sometimes I lose sight of what I have and what that joy is and get too stuck on a definition and not, like you say, like my whole life is that. So I don't consider that. So I think that's a wonderful thing that I'm going to take away with me.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we only have four more to get through. What's one thing you've never said out loud but wish someone would ask you about?
I'm pretty out there. Like I really do say a lot. Um,
But do people ask you a lot about like, you get asked about the thing that you want to be, that you want known?
I think sometimes, like again, I'm pretty open and out there with everything, or I'll say it if someone doesn't ask me. But I think maybe some of it comes from like um if people think I'm very strong, then there's not a lot of question about when I'm feeling weak,
Yeah.
or that I'm not always that, people tend to, like you said it. I'm scared. She's
So
forcing these things
balls
and
to the
like,
wall, but I also said you're tender and vulnerable and right, like that's like
absolutely.
it's this beautiful combination. Okay.
But I think most people think I'm just okay all the time. That Lori, what she does and the events and the things and so busy and all of that. And so there's not a lot of check-in, like, are you okay? Maybe.
Now, what's one part of your erotic self that you're still afraid to bring to the light?
Mm,
Mm.
that's a good question.
Right. He's like
That's
3 minutes
a good
left. I
question.
love it. I know.
Uh,
He's like, get on with
Answer,
it.
answer. Um,
No pressure though.
I think, and it is, I'm going to be more literal about it. It is and this is something I've never said out loud, actually. This is something I've never said out
Hmm.
loud, is what I think of as my sexual orientation,
Mm.
who I love.
Who you love.
And I feel like that I don't exercise a part of myself that I've always wanted to. Does that make sense?
Mm. Absolutely. Thank
Mhm.
you. So, what dies in you when you pretend, and what comes alive when you don't?
Mm. Oh God, everything dies. everything dies. This is when I get stomach aches. That's when I get ailments, right? The pretending is like suffocating. It feels like, and when I don't
Yeah.
pretend, it can be painful, right? I always say the truth will set you free, but it might not always feel good,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's freedom in not pretending. That even
Yeah.
if it's a little scary, that there's a sense of freedom. So the suffocating to the freedom. I think those would be the two.
Okay, so we have two more questions, which I'll try to do quickly. Finish the sentence. When I leave this life, I want my skin to remember.
Oh, I want my skin to remember again that same thing, that like a lot that feeling of aliveness, right? That what
Mm-hmm.
like just feeling like ooh, like yeah. I wanted to
Yeah.
remember, yeah, that joy. Yeah.
And last, if the soul has a scent, what does yours smell like today?
Ooh. I don't know if this is true, but the first thing that came to my mind was geranium.
I love geranium.
And that
That's
might be
awesome.
because I wear it. That's my deodorant. That could be it.
Okay.
But that's
I love
like,
that it's not even the perfume. You're like, it's my deodorant. It's not
well,
the
no, it's
perfume.
like oil. That's all I use is
Okay,
oil.
okay.
But yeah, oh, it would smell. I'm so appreciative of this time with you. So I feel like it
You.
would smell like crisp and fresh. And if there's a smell to feeling renewed, that would be it.
Mhm. I love it. I love it. And I'm sorry, I know I have to cut it off because I'm going to be cut off.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. If you want to know anything more about Lori Triolo, just go to loritriolo.com. There's a wealth of information there. Hit her up, ask her information, go do the work with whoever, just go do the work. Walk into your awareness. And for anybody who's interested in sending me some yummy moonlanders, I'm like waiting. info@luvology.com. And you can talk to me about your own discovery around your body or anything really, like acting. If you have a curiosity around what actors do, let me know. All right, everybody, have a wonderful week. Thank you again.
Thank you. So good to see you.
Thank you for listening to Skin and Soul with me, Gwenm. Join me Fridays at 10 a.m. PST on Transformation Talk Radio. Catch the podcast anytime on your favorite platforms. You can follow me on Instagram @Luvology. Ready to take the next step? Book a compatibility call with me at gwenmcarsley.com.